The boarding doors had barely closed when the trouble began. She slid gracefully into her first-class seat, leather briefcase tucked at her feet, when a man in a tailored blazer loomed above her. His voice dripped arrogance. "You're in the wrong seat. This is 3 Amperes. Mine." The young woman looked up, calm but firm. "This is my seat. Here's my boarding pass." He snatched the slip from her hand, scoffed, and waved it dismissively. "Computer glitch happens all the time. Don't worry, I'll get staff to find you somewhere else, coach." Probably. Nearby passengers glanced nervously, unsure if they were witnessing a mistake or a humiliation. The woman's jaw tightened. She didn't raise her voice. She simply reached into her purse, pulled out a slim platinum card embossed with her name, and dialed a number. The man sneered. "Who are you calling?" She held his gaze, unflinching. "The airline's owner." Seconds later, the announcement crackled overhead. "Passenger in 3 Amperes, please gather your belongings immediately. Welcome to Respect Wind Stories, a place where powerful tales come alive, and every word carries meaning. No matter where you are watching from New York, Texas, California, or anywhere across the United States. Even from the other side of the world, I would love to know where you are joining from today. Share it in the comments below. And while you do, sit back, relax, and let your heart open to a story that will move your soul and spark your imagination. Every story here carries a message, because in the end, respect always wins. Let us begin. Her name was Alana Rhodes, just 21, but already a billionaire in her own right. The daughter of tech mogul Cynthia Rhodes, she had inherited not only her mother's empire, but her steel spine and unshakable poise. Though tabloids painted her as glamorous, Alana preferred quiet strength over spectacle. She dressed simply, carried her own bags, and never announced her wealth. To her, respect had to be earned, not demanded. This trip was no indulgence. She was on her way to London to finalize a foundation deal that would fund education for thousands of underprivileged girls. Her ticket wasn't a gift. It was a seat she had chosen and paid for herself. One more step in proving she belonged in every room she entered. But the stranger who tried to steal her seat didn't see a philanthropist or leader. He saw someone he could dismiss. And that mistake was about to cost him everything. The flight attendant approached with a polite but strained smile. "Sir, what seems to be the problem?" The man gestured at Alana like she was luggage out of place. "She's in my seat. 3 Amperes. First class. You can move her back." Alana calmly offered her boarding pass. "It clearly says 3 Amperes, issued in my name." The attendant scanned it, her device flashing green. For a second, the truth hung in the air indisputable. But then the man leaned closer, his voice low and dripping with certainty. "These glitches happen. Look at her. You think she belongs here?" "She probably snuck in." Gasps rippled. A woman in the next row frowned, but stayed silent. Another passenger shifted uncomfortably, burying his face in a newspaper. The attendant hesitated. "Ma'am, would you mind waiting in the galley while we sort this out?" Alana's eyes narrowed. She spoke evenly, but her words carried steel. "No, I boarded correctly. This is my assigned seat. You need to verify his claim, not mine." The man barked a laugh. "Unbelievable. She's making a scene." Alana did not move. Her voice stayed steady. "The only scene here is a passenger stealing what isn't his." The attendant's composure cracked. "Miss, please, if you don't cooperate, I'll have to involve security." Phones began to rise discreetly. Passengers knew drama when they saw it. The cabin hummed with the quiet charge of a courtroom about to open. Alana placed her briefcase on her lap, folded her hands over it, and said, "Call security. And while you do, let me make a call of my own." She unlocked her phone with a press, scrolled once, and tapped. The line connected instantly. "Miss Rhodes," came a clipped professional voice. "This is Hale Aviation Corporate. How can we assist?" The man's smirk faltered. The attendant froze mid-breath. Alana's reply was smooth, measured. "I'm currently seated in 3 Amperes. A man has taken my seat and staff are asking me to move. This is a violation of your own policy." Shall I forward the recording to my counsel? Every nearby passenger heard her words. Silence thickened. The attendant's color drained. Ma'am, there's no need for that. We'll resolve it quickly. But Alana was not finished. Resolve it transparently. Right here, right now. Scan his ticket. The man thrust his boarding pass forward with mock confidence. The scanner beeped red. Invalid. Assigned to 14C. The entire row gasped. His arrogance shattered in an instant. Alana remained seated, gaze level. Now, whose seat is this? For the first time, the man had no answer. He sank back, stammering excuses about system errors. The attendant swallowed hard, caught between protocol and the icy weight of corporate eyes, undoubtedly already on her. Alana leaned back against the headrest, calm as marble. She hadn't raised her voice once, but the balance of power in the cabin had shifted, and the man's fall had only just begun. The man's face reddened as the attendant waved the scanner again. Red, no doubt, no excuse. Yet he still puffed his chest. It's a system error. I paid for that seat. I have status. Alana's calm voice cut him clean. You paid for 14C. You're standing in 3 amperes. Sit down in your assigned seat or prepare to exit this plane. The passengers murmured approval. A young woman behind whispered loudly. She's right. Phones tilted higher, capturing every word. The captain appeared at the cabin door, summoned by the tension. He was seasoned, his expression neutral but wary. What's going on? The lead attendant quickly painted the story her way. Sir, this passenger claims 3 amperes, but we've got a dispute. Alana raised her hand, her tone composed but unflinching. There's no dispute. His ticket is 14C. The scanner shows it. Mine is valid. Yet, I was asked to leave my seat. The captain scanned both tickets himself. Green for Alana. Red for the man. His brow furrowed. The system is clear. Still, the man pressed, voice rising. I deserve this seat. I'm not moving because of some glitch or... His eyes flicked to Alana, venom coating the silence. Or charity case. Gasps. Phones caught the slur, the contempt. The captain stiffened. Sir, lower your voice. Alana didn't flinch. She tapped her phone still connected to corporate. The line had remained open. Silent witnesses on the other end. She spoke calmly into the mic. You heard that? Yes, Miss Rhodes. The voice came back, crisp and undeniable through the speaker. We're dispatching security to the gate. He will not remain on this flight. The man's bravado cracked. You can't just... But the captain's tone shifted, authority ringing. Sir, gather your belongings, now. The passengers erupted in whispers, some openly cheering. The woman across the aisle clapped once sharply. About time. The man sputtered, desperation leaking into his arrogance. Do you know who I am? I'm a platinum member. I fly this airline every month. Alana tilted her head, her voice measured as steel. Then you should know the rules better than anyone. Loyalty doesn't buy you the right to steal. The attendants, once hesitant, now stood firm at the captain's side. The scanner beeped one last time red, invalid as if delivering a verdict. Passenger in 3 amperes, the captain said evenly, echoing the earlier PA announcement. You are being removed from this aircraft for non-compliance and harassment. The man's knees buckled. He tried to argue, but the wave of recording phones, the corporate lines still live on Alana's speaker, and the eyes of every passenger bore down like a jury. The attendant's voice trembled. Gate security is already on the jet bridge. Alana leaned back, folding her arms. She hadn't shouted. She hadn't begged. She had simply held her ground. The man finally snatched up his bag, muttering curses under his breath. But even as he stormed down the aisle, applause began. Not polite applause, thunderous, cathartic, a release of collective frustration at arrogance put in its place. The cabin filled with clapping, cheers, even whistles. Alana didn't move. She just nodded once, dignified. as the man disappeared down the jet bridge. His status stripped, his arrogance deflated. The captain exhaled, eyes softening toward her. "Miss Rhodes, thank you for your patience." She gave the smallest smile. "I wasn't patient, I was prepared." The passengers laughed, the tension breaking. But Alana knew this wasn't over. Arrogance had been removed, yes, but the world needed to see why, and she intended to make sure of it. Security appeared at the cabin door within minutes. 2 officers in Navy uniforms striding down the aisle. The energy in the plane shifted the tension of confrontation, morphing into the anticipation of closure. "There he is," the captain said firmly, pointing toward the man still lingering, refusing to step fully out. The officer addressed him evenly. "Sir, you've been asked to leave the aircraft. You may collect your belongings. Failure to comply will result in a permanent ban." The man's face burned red, veins straining at his temple. "This is outrageous. I've flown this airline for 20 years. I'm a priority customer." One officer leaned closer, his voice low but firm. "Priority doesn't excuse harassment." The passengers erupted in murmurs of agreement. A man in row 4 spoke up. "We saw everything. Don't waste our time, move." Phones were everywhere now, their little red record lights like dozens of unblinking eyes. The man realized every word, every sneer was being preserved forever. He turned once more toward Alana, desperation twisting into venom. "Enjoy your 15 minutes of fame." Alana met his glare calmly. "I don't need 15 minutes. I have a lifetime." The line struck like lightning. Applause thundered again, louder than before, as passengers clapped and cheered. Some rose to their feet, sealing the man's humiliation in a wall of sound. Security finally ushered him down the aisle. His bag clunked against knees and armrests as he stormed toward the exit. The jeers followed him. "Good riddance. Don't come back. Respect goes both ways." And then he was gone, swallowed by the jet bridge. The doors sealed shut behind him, the hiss final and sharp, like a courtroom gavel. Silence followed for a beat. Then laughter and chatter filled the void. Passengers leaned toward Alana, thanking her, praising her composure. "You handled that better than anyone could have. You didn't even flinch." The captain approached her directly, his expression softer now, respectful. "Miss Rhodes, I apologize on behalf of my crew and this airline. You were right, this should never have happened. We'll be filing an incident report immediately." Alana inclined her head. "Thank you, Captain. I trust it will be handled." Her phone buzzed in her lap, an email from corporate already waiting. Full apology to follow. Crew debrief scheduled. Passenger blacklisted. She smiled faintly. The system was moving faster than arrogance could keep up. Around her, the cabin buzzed with renewed energy. Champagne glasses clinked. Conversation sparked. The storm had passed, but the lesson lingered in the air like the echo of thunder. The woman across the aisle leaned over, her eyes shining. "You know, you didn't just defend yourself. You defended all of us. We've all seen this happen. Just not everyone has the power to stop it." Alana met her gaze, nodding once. "Respect shouldn't need power, but if I have it, I'll use it." And though she remained seated, Alana knew she had risen higher than anyone else on that plane. The flight attendant, who had first asked her to move, approached quietly, shame in her eyes. "Ma'am, I owe you an apology." Alana looked at her, calm but firm. "Make it official. To every passenger." Out loud. The attendant's throat worked, but she obeyed. She addressed the cabin, her voice shaking. "Ladies and gentlemen, earlier I mishandled a seating dispute. I wrongly questioned Miss Rhodes' right to her seat. I apologize to her and to all of you. It won't happen again." The passengers clapped, not for the attendant, but for the accountability. Alana leaned back, closed her eyes for a moment, and let the cabin's energy settle. The conflict was over. But she knew when arrogance falls, the world always takes notice. By the time the plane leveled at cruising altitude, the cabin had returned to a semblance of normalcy. Drinks were served, dinner trays clinked, And yet every conversation seemed to circle back to the moment in 3 amperes. Alana sat with her briefcase still at her feet, scrolling calmly through her phone. But her silence was deceptive. Notifications were exploding across her screen. Passenger-recorded clips of the confrontation were already on social media, gaining traction at dizzying speed. The first headline pinged across her news feed. Passenger removed for seat theft after first-class showdown. Then another. Young black woman stands ground against arrogant flyer. She sighed softly. Attention was never her goal. Her mission was her work, her foundation. But she also knew this. Once a story took flight, you either steered it or it consumed you. Across the aisle, a man leaned closer, whispering to his wife. She looks familiar. His wife squinted. Isn't that Alana Rhodes? The billionaire? The words dropped like a spark in dry grass. Soon murmurs rippled through the cabin. Rhodes, as in Cynthia Rhodes' daughter, the tech empire? One bold passenger asked, "Excuse me, are you Alana Rhodes?" Alana looked up, expression composed. "Yes, I am." The cabin buzzed louder. Phones discreetly snapping photos. The man in 14C, now sitting in shameful silence 2 cabins back, must have felt the ripple hit him like a wave. The seat he had tried to steal had belonged not to just any young woman, but to one of the most powerful names in business. The captain himself approached again, his face etched with new gravity. "Rhodes," he said, his tone markedly different now. "On behalf of Hale Aviation, I want to personally apologize. Your presence here is an honor. This incident is deeply regrettable." Alana's eyes met his evenly. "Captain, your words matter less than your actions. Make sure no other passenger is ever treated as I was tonight. Wealth or no wealth." Her words landed like a gavel. The captain nodded, chastened, and retreated. Meanwhile, phones buzzed nonstop. Hashtags began trending worldwide before the plane even crossed the Atlantic. Number, seat stolen, number, respectat, 30 Calaf feet, number, Alana Rhodes. By the time dessert was served, the first video clip had surpassed 500,000 views. Comment sections exploded with both outrage and praise. She handled it like a queen. Imagine trying to steal a billionaire's seat, karma instant. No, this isn't about wealth. It's about respect. Period. Alana finally set her phone down, gazing out the window into the endless dark sky. She hadn't chosen the spotlight tonight, but it had chosen her. And back in 14C, the disgraced man hunched low, his face pale as his phone buzzed with calls he didn't dare answer. He had stolen the wrong seat from the wrong woman, and the whole world was about to know it. By the time the cabin lights dimmed for the overnight portion of the flight, the storm on the ground had already begun. News outlets from New York to London had picked up the story. What had started as shaky passenger-recorded video clips were now fully edited reels plastered across every platform. Headlines scrolled endlessly. Passenger removed after trying to steal billionaire's seat. Alana Rhodes, heiress and philanthropist, handles discrimination with grace. When arrogance met power, viral flight confrontation. The passengers in first class refreshed their phones compulsively, whispering updates across the aisles. Even the attendants, once stiff and guarded, now avoided eye contact with Alana, their shame palpable. In row 14C, the man who had sparked it all was drowning. His phone buzzed with relentless notifications. His name, Jason Merrill, was already trending. Someone had posted his LinkedIn profile, his employer tagged. The internet worked quickly, mercilessly. He muttered curses under his breath, tugging his baseball cap low over his eyes, as if anonymity could save him now. It couldn't. Screens across the globe were replaying his smirk, his sneer, his arrogance, and the exact moment it shattered when the scanner beeped red. Back in 3 amperes, Alana sipped her tea with steady grace. Her inbox overflowed. Invitations to speak on news programs, requests for statements, offers for interviews, she ignored them all. To her, the message was already clear without a press conference. The footage spoke louder than words. But she wasn't naive. She knew the world would try to make this about her wealth, her name, her power. She leaned toward the woman, seated across the aisle, and spoke quietly. This story shouldn't be about me. It should be about how easily people dismiss others based on appearance. The woman nodded, her voice soft but resolute. That's exactly why it's powerful. You showed the truth, and they can't spin it away. Meanwhile, Jason made the mistake of glancing at his feed. A viral tweet glared back at him. Imagine buying an economy seat, stealing 3 amperes, and then finding out it belongs to a billionaire philanthropist. Couldn't be me. Number seat stolen. Over 800,000 likes. Thousands of comments tearing into his arrogance. He slammed his phone face down on the tray, his ears burning, but the whispers around him were louder than any notification. That's him. Unbelievable. Serves him right. The humiliation spread faster than turbulence. It wasn't just his seat he had lost, it was his anonymity, his reputation, maybe even his career. The captain's voice came over the intercom, calm and routine, announcing their position over the Atlantic. But every ear in the cabin was tuned to something else. The steady buzz of a scandal that was only just beginning to take shape. And in the glow of her seat lamp, Alana Rhodes continued her work, reviewing proposals for her education foundation, highlighting notes in her tablet utterly composed, untouched by the chaos her presence had unleashed. Because this was the part arrogance never understood. The people you try to erase often become the loudest voices in the room. And Jason Merrill had just ensured the whole world would hear hers. By the time dawn streaked pale gold across the horizon, Jason Merrill's world had collapsed. His employer's statement had already gone viral. We do not condone discriminatory behavior. Effective immediately, Jason Merrill's employment has been terminated. The message spread like wildfire. Screenshots lit up every corner of social media. Hashtags trended in multiple countries. Number seat stolen was now joined by number accountability in the air. Back in row 14C, Jason sat rigid, his phone dark, battery drained from hours of desperate scrolling. He looked less like a platinum flyer and more like a man exposed, stripped of every illusion of power. Passengers near him pulled away, recoiling as though his arrogance were contagious. Meanwhile, in 3 amperes, Alana's phone buzzed again, not with noise, but with impact. Dozens of foundations, advocacy groups, and civil rights leaders had reached out. Some offered solidarity, others requested partnership. One message caught her eye, from a school principal in Detroit. The girls you're funding already call you a role model. After this, they'll call you unstoppable. Alana exhaled slowly. She hadn't wanted this spotlight. But if it was here, she would use it. The captain stopped by her seat one last time, speaking with reverence. Miss Rhodes, we've coordinated with ground staff. Security will escort Mr. Merrill off the plane upon landing. I assure you, this airline takes full responsibility. She looked at him evenly. Make sure this doesn't end with him. Review your policies. Train your staff. Arrogance should never make it this far. The captain nodded gravely. As the plane descended, the atmosphere in first class shifted. Conversations no longer whispered, they swelled with admiration. She didn't even raise her voice. She dismantled him with composure. That's power. When the wheels touched down and the cabin erupted in applause, it wasn't for the landing. It was for Alana Rhodes. Jason was escorted out first, flanked by security. Phones filmed as he stumbled through the aisle, pale and silent. No one clapped. No one pitied him. His arrogance had written its own ending. Then Alana rose, gathering her briefcase with calm precision. Passengers leaned in, thanking her, shaking her hand. One whispered, "You didn't just win. You showed us how to fight with dignity." As she stepped onto the jet bridge, camera flashes exploded. Reporters shouting questions. "Miss Rhodes, do you have a statement? Will you pursue legal action? What message do you have for the airline industry?" Alana paused, turning to face the wall of microphones. Her voice was calm, steady, undeniable. My message is simple. Every passenger deserves respect. Wealth, race, status, none of it should decide who belongs in a seat they've earned. Tonight wasn't about me. It was about dignity. And dignity will always have the final word. The crowd erupted, cameras flashing like lightning. Behind her, Jason Merrill was escorted into a waiting van, his face hidden, his future shredded. Ahead of her, doors opened to a world ready to listen. Because Alana Rhodes hadn't just defended her seat. She had claimed her place in history. The arrivals hall buzzed like a hive. Reporters crowded the ropes, microphones thrust forward, cameras snapping as though they were chasing a celebrity. But Alana Rhodes didn't walk like a celebrity. She walked like a woman with purpose, shoulders squared, chin high, her leather briefcase swinging at her side. Behind her, Jason Merrill was ushered out a different exit, flanked by guards. The sight of him head bowed, jacket rumpled, flashed across news feeds almost instantly. His silence was as loud as Alana's calm. A reporter shouted, "Miss Rhodes, are you pressing charges?" She stopped, turning just enough for her voice to carry. "I don't need to." The real trial already happened live, in front of everyone. The cameras erupted in clicks. Another asked, "Do you think this was about race?" Her gaze was steady, unblinking. It was about arrogance. And arrogance always underestimates. It thought my age, my skin, my gender meant I didn't belong. It was wrong. The word spread in seconds, clipped into headlines before she'd even stepped into the waiting car. At Hale Aviation headquarters, executives were already in damage control overdrive. The CEO, called from his vacation, addressed the press that evening. "We failed Miss Rhodes. We failed our passengers. And we failed our promise." Effective immediately, we are implementing mandatory anti-bias training, stricter accountability for crew, and a zero-tolerance policy for harassment. Miss Rhodes's composure reminded us of our duty. Tonight, we recommit to it. Clips of his statement aired beside footage of Alana in her seat, her voice calm as she dismantled Jason Merrill's arrogance. The contrast was undeniable. Where he sneered, she stood steady. Where the crew hesitated, she held firm. Within hours, airlines across the industry issued their own statements, scrambling to align with the wave of public demand. On social media, one phrase crystallized: dignity is non-negotiable. It appeared on t-shirts, profile banners, even painted across signs at rallies. Back at her estate, Alana finally exhaled. She had never wanted the spotlight, but she had always understood its weight. If the world wanted to listen now, she would make sure it heard more than just a scandal. Her mother, Cynthia Rhodes, watched from the terrace, pride softening her steel gaze. "You know this is bigger than you now, don't you?" Alana nodded, her eyes scanning the night sky. "It's bigger than me. It's about everyone who's ever been told to stand in the back when their name was on the front." Cynthia smiled faintly. "Then use it, Alana. Use it to build the world you've been dreaming about." And Alana knew she would. The flight was over, but the movement was only just taking off. The following week, Alana Rhodes found herself standing in front of a congressional subcommittee in Washington. Cameras lined the chamber, every seat filled. What had begun as a viral clip was now a matter of public policy. Lawmakers leaned forward as Alana began her statement. Her voice was calm, steady, the same composure she had carried at 30,000 feet. "I didn't ask to become a symbol. I didn't ask for attention. But when arrogance confronted me, I had two choices: surrender or stand. I chose to stand not only for myself, but for every passenger who has been dismissed, silenced, or treated as if they didn't belong." The room was silent, listening. This isn't about wealth. This isn't about celebrity. This is about dignity. If dignity can be stolen from me in plain sight, with cameras recording, imagine how often it's stolen from those without a platform. That cannot continue. Applause rippled, unusual in such a chamber. Lawmakers exchanged glances, the message sinking deeper than speeches usually reached. Outside, crowds gathered with signs bearing her words. Dignity is non-negotiable. Protesters and supporters alike demanded stronger protections for passengers. Airlines across the country scrambled to update their training manuals, fearing reputational collapse if they didn't act. That evening, news anchors replayed her testimony with reverence. Analysts called it a cultural pivot. Editorials hailed her poise as a masterclass in leadership. And young people across the world began tagging their posts with a new mantra, number stand like Alana. At her foundation's headquarters, Alana gathered with her team. A young intern beamed at her. You've given kids more than scholarships now. You've given them proof that their voices matter. Alana smiled softly. That was always the point. Meanwhile, Jason Merrill was no longer just a man in disgrace, he was a cautionary tale. Jobless, blacklisted from airlines, his name became shorthand for arrogance gone too far. Memes flooded the internet. Side-by-side screenshots of his sneer versus Alana's composure. Captions reading, "This is how dignity wins." When asked if she took satisfaction in his downfall, Alana's answer was measured. I take no joy in another's ruin, but I take comfort in knowing arrogance met accountability. That balance matters. Her words carried everywhere, from late-night talk shows to high school classrooms where teachers played the viral clip as a lesson on character. Alana Rhodes hadn't just kept her seat. She had claimed a place in the public conscience. And the world wasn't letting go. 2 months later, the ripple had become a tide. Airlines worldwide announced sweeping reforms, mandatory anti-bias training, stricter seating enforcement policies, and customer bills of rights updated to enshrine one phrase. Dignity is non-negotiable. Hale Aviation went further, naming a new initiative in Alana's honor, the Rhodes Standard. Every crew member was required to pass a course built from the lessons of Flight 227. The night arrogance tried to claim her seat. Alana watched the announcement from a quiet corner of her foundation's office. The CEO of Hale Aviation spoke solemnly on a stage flanked by employees. We failed one passenger, and in doing so, we were reminded by her strength that respect is our first duty. The Rhodes Standard will ensure no passenger ever again faces what Miss Rhodes endured. The audience applauded, cameras flashed, but Alana felt something quieter in her chest. Resolve. That evening, she returned to Detroit to visit the very schools her foundation supported. The children there had followed her story like it was legend. They crowded the auditorium holding handmade signs. Stand like Alana. A young girl approached her shyly, clutching a notebook. Miss Rhodes, I want to be like you. Not because you're rich, but because you didn't let them take what was yours. Alana knelt, her voice warm. You don't have to be me. You already have everything you need. Never let anyone move you from the seat you've earned. The girl smiled, a light sparking in her eyes. Back home that night, Alana finally allowed herself a long look in the mirror. The headlines, the hashtags, the speeches, they weren't what mattered. What mattered was that she had stayed rooted in who she was. She hadn't let arrogance steal her dignity. And in refusing, she'd given countless others permission to hold their ground too. Jason Merrill's name faded into obscurity, a cautionary tale drowned in his own arrogance. But Alana's name remained etched in the public conscience, not as an heiress, not as a billionaire, but as a symbol. The flight had ended, but its lesson endured. Dignity once defended could never again be dismissed. And Alana Rhodes, the girl in seat 3 Amperes, had shown the world exactly how to defend it. The night after the Rhodes Standard was announced, Alana sat alone on her balcony, city lights glittering beneath her like a million tiny runways. The noise of the world, the reporters, the speeches, the hashtags had quieted at last. But inside her, the echoes remained. She replayed the moment in 3 Amperes, the sneer on Jason Merrill's face, the sting of the attendant's hesitation. For a second back then, she had felt invisible, as though the weight of her name and achievements could be erased by a single glance of dismissal. That pain lingered, sharper than the applause that followed. Her mother stepped outside, a shawl draped over her shoulders. Cynthia Rhodes studied her daughter for a moment, then sat beside her. You've been quiet, she said gently. Alana exhaled. Everyone sees the victory. No one saw the moment before it, when I doubted myself. When I almost stood up and gave him the seat just to avoid the scene. Cynthia's hand found hers. And yet you didn't. Alana looked down, voice soft. I didn't, because I remembered your words. Respect is not given. It is claimed. But it was harder than I thought it would be. I wasn't fearless, Mom. I was terrified. Her mother smiled faintly. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's refusing to bow to it. That's what you did. That's why it mattered. For the first time, Alana allowed the tears she had been holding back to fall, not of shame, but of release. The cameras had captured her composure, but not the storm inside the pounding heart, the clenched fists hidden beneath the armrest. I don't want to be a symbol forever, she whispered. I just want to be me. Cynthia squeezed her hand. Then be you. The world will decide what it calls you, but you get to decide how you carry it. Remember, Alana, you didn't become a symbol because of your wealth. You became one because of your dignity. That can never be taken from you. The city hummed below them, alive and endless. Alana leaned against her mother's shoulder, letting the weight of the night dissolve. She realized then that the movement wasn't just about policy or headlines. It was about moments like this quiet ones, where fear and courage finally met and reconciled. The storm was behind her, but the lessons it carried would remain forever. 2 weeks later, Alana walked into a school gymnasium on Detroit's east side, where her foundation had funded new classrooms. The moment she stepped in, a roar of cheers echoed across the walls. Students held up signs painted in bold colors. Dignity is non-negotiable, and stand like Alana. For the first time since the flight, she felt her chest tighten not from pressure, but from the raw reality of what her story had become. These weren't strangers on social media. These were young people, wide-eyed, looking at her as proof that dignity could win. The principal, a tall woman with a proud smile, took the microphone. Students, we're honored to welcome Miss Alana Rhodes not as a billionaire, not as a headline, but as someone who stood her ground and showed the world how to lead with grace. The applause swelled again as Alana stepped up. She didn't bring notes. She didn't need them. I never planned to make a statement that night, she began, her voice carrying across the bleachers. I only planned to sit in the seat I had earned. But sometimes, life asks us to decide, will we shrink or will we stand? That night, I chose to stand. And today, I'm telling you, each of you has that same choice in your own lives. Dozens of little hands shot up, eager to ask questions. One girl, no older than 10, asked shyly, "Were you scared?" Alana smiled gently. Yes, terrified. But courage isn't being fearless, it's standing tall even when you're shaking inside. The girl nodded, her small shoulders squaring as if the words themselves were armor. Another boy asked, "Did you know it would change the world?" Alana chuckled softly. No, I only knew it would change my world if I let someone take what was mine. The world changing that was up to everyone else who chose to listen. The gym filled with a hush, as if every heart paused to take in her words. After her speech, the students crowded around, hugging her, handing her notes and drawings. One sketch caught her eye, a simple picture of her sitting calmly in a plane seat, the words above it. She didn't move. Alana held it close, her throat tightening. It wasn't about fame or wealth or power. It was about the legacy of showing others they could hold their ground too. As she left the school, the students chanting her name behind her, Alana realized the true impact of her stand. It wasn't in the applause of strangers or the headlines of newspapers. It was here, in the spark she saw ignite in the eyes of children who now believed they belonged anywhere they chose to sit. Later that night, Alana returned home to the quiet of her penthouse. The city shimmered beneath her windows, a constellation of lights, but inside it was still. She slipped off her shoes, set down her briefcase, and finally let herself breathe. The world saw her as unshakable, but the truth was softer. She still remembered the heat rising in her chest when Jason Merrill sneered at her. The split second when doubt nearly pulled her from her seat. What the cameras never showed was how close she came to folding. She sat at her desk, opening a journal she hadn't touched in months. She began to write, "Strength is not never being moved. It's knowing when not to move. Tonight I understand that dignity lives in the small moments, not the headlines. The world may remember me for a seat on a plane, but I will remember it as the night I learned the weight of my own voice." Her mother entered quietly, setting a cup of tea beside her. "You've carried this well, Alana," Cynthia said softly, "but don't forget you're still allowed to rest." Alana closed the journal and looked out at the skyline. "I don't feel like I won, Mom. I feel like I've been handed a responsibility I can't put down." Cynthia smiled faintly. "That's because symbols don't belong to themselves. They belong to the people who see themselves in them. But here's the truth: you get to decide how to carry it. Not the headlines, not the world. You." The words settled deep in Alana's chest. She sipped her tea, letting the warmth remind her that even burdens could be gifts. Her phone buzzed again, an email, this time from a young woman in Nigeria. "I watched your video. Because of you, I refused to give up my scholarship seat today when they tried to replace me with someone else. Thank you for showing me that I belong." Alana's eyes filled with tears, but this time they didn't fall from fear. They fell from recognition, from knowing that her stand had stretched farther than she ever dreamed. She walked back onto her balcony, the city sprawling endlessly below. The world would always call her many things: billionaire, philanthropist, heiress. But now, she realized, it would also call her something else. A reminder that dignity, once defended, can ripple across oceans. Alana Rhodes hadn't asked to be a symbol, but as she stood beneath the stars, she whispered to herself, steady and certain, "I will carry it." And with that, the night finally felt still, not because the noise had stopped, but because she had found her peace within it. And that is another story shared here on Respect Win Stories. If this one touched your heart, inspired you, or made you think, please hit that like button and subscribe. It truly helps us bring more powerful stories your way. Drop your city or state in the comments, and let us see how far these stories travel across the world. Remember, no matter the struggle, no matter the ending, respect always wins. See you in the next story. Bye-bye.